So guys, in this video I'll be sharing some of my realizations, recent means in the last 1.5 months or last 2 months maybe, uh, about uh, about the nature of humanity and about life, about death. And I must warn you that this video is not a happy or cheerful or a scientific video. It might be depressing, but whatever I'm saying is from my realizations, from my experiences. My realizations may be incorrect, but my experiences are true. You cannot deny that. And I'll be sharing my experiences as with you, and then you can judge for yourself. So I don't usually do this kind of video, although I did one recently. Recently means 2 months ago, around 2 months ago, about the video called like why am I a failure, something like that. There also I shared my honest realizations. And yeah, at that point of time I thought like, yeah, okay, so let me just share the realizations. I hope I never have to make a video of this kind again in ever in my life. And fast forward to 2 months, here I am. I was I was in a dilemma. I didn't want to make this video, but then but finally I realized that I have to do it. I have to let people know. I don't care about what people think of me anyway. Anyways, I'm anyway the most hated guy in college. And in, of course, people don't have the guts to tell that to me directly, but I can feel it. And I love it because see, like I told that in the previous video as well. I don't want to be loved, because if people love you, it's more. All of this I'm saying from because I have done a bit of study about psychology and neuroscience. So love is kind of pity in disguise. I'm not talking from the point of view of any poetry and all, or literature, but from a scientific point of view. If people love you, that means they don't see you as a threat. That means they perceive themselves to be at a better position than you. That means you are not doing great. So they kind of pity you, and they kind of don't see you as a threat. So then don't take you seriously. They kind of help you and love you. That is love. Scientifically, that is love. The chemicals in your brain that generate this feeling of love, almost similar kind of chemicals and similar proportions generate the feelings of pity. Scientifically, in poetry, of course, poetry and in stories and all, in all the songs and all, it seems like if you look at the lyrics, it seems like love is the most important thing in the world. But all this, that is rubbish. Scientifically, that is love. And if people hate you, I mean, by hate you I don't mean people will openly, but if you are hated, you know what I mean. And if you are not, then you will never understand. So I'm not even trying to, I'm not even going to try to make you understand. But that means actually people perceive as a threat. So that means you should take it as a motivation to do even better. You should not break down. Like recently, I mean, i i I cannot be totally open with you, but I had some close calls with death. But of course, I never really considered taking my own life. I never really considered dying, and I don't, because not because people want me alive, precisely because people don't want me alive. People want me dead. Of course, if I die, my parents will really be affected, and a few of my relatives will, but almost everyone else will be happy. Will Most of them will be neutral, and some, I'm sure, definitely will be very happy. And that is precisely why some people might feel bad that if they were in my place, that everybody wants me dead, nobody cares for me, so let me die. What have I to live for? But I thought in the opposite direction. Nobody wants me alive. That is precisely why I should be alive, because I cannot let them win. If I die, then I will make their lives easier. Why should I do that? And anyway, I have I mean, my life is not dependent on them. I mean, they don't provide money to me. They are not responsible for my fooding and whatever, for my livelihood. I am an independent person right now. Yeah. Financially, I'm not totally independent yet, but for that I'm dependent on my father, on my parents, not on them. So why should I even care about them? But yeah, these are all my realizations right now. But initially it was a bit difficult. But first thing I realized was that a very important point. Many of you will not agree. And again, people, I'm already perceived as a nihilist, and yeah, I do believe in nihilism, in some particular aspects of nihilism, the scientific nihilism, not all the claims of nihilism. So, and yeah, people have this notion that I am. I mean, I don't know. Nobody has told me this directly, but I feel like they have this notion that I am this kind of, this negative and pessimistic person, and who is very unstable, mentally unstable, whatever. I don't care, like whatever you call me. Maybe I am, actually maybe I am mentally unstable, but if I am, then it is people like you, it is this society that has made me this way. I was not born like this. If you look at my first 15 or 15 years in life, I was not like this. I have become like this recently, the last 1 year or so. So yeah, of course, people like there was this famous saying, people say I have changed, I say people say that I have changed a lot, and I say that a lot has changed me. Because see, in the short term, again, this is a concept of game theory. In the short run, your environment shapes your behavior. If you are a good person but surrounded by bad people, I'm not saying I am a good person, this is just an analogy, don't relate with my case, okay? So if you're a good person but you're surrounded by bad people, then on the short term you will be forced to become bad. In the sense, you will not be able to survive in that environment if you stick to your principles. If you're a good person, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. But on the long run, I mean, if you somehow manage to survive, somehow means there are ways, scientific ways. It's not. I'm not talking about just somehow, but on the long run, you can define your environment. You can even change the behavior. You can shape the behavior of your environment. This is what happens. To give a simple example, if I give you a thought experiment, a kind of simple scenario, kind of thought experiment type. Suppose you will meet a person you have never met before, and it is just an experiment, and it is told to you that you will never ever meet that person in your life again, and he or I mean both of you will never meet again. You will just meet briefly once, just once. And if you behave with him in a good way, and he behaves with you in a bad way, he gets +1. It's a game. The one with the maximum number of points will win. So if he behaves with you badly, but you behave with him or her, with him, let's say him, in a good way, he gets +1. If he behaves with you in a good way, but you behave badly with him, then you get +1. And if both of you behave, you get +1 and he gets -1. I just missed this point. Okay. So if you behave in a bad manner, but he behaves well, he gets -1, you get +1. If he behaves with you in a bad way, but you behave well, you get -1, he gets +1. And if both of you behave badly, 0-0. Nobody gets any point and nobody loses any points. So what will you do? And of course, you don't know his strategy, you don't know him before, and you don't know what he's gonna do. And he is also aware of the rules of the game, but he also does not know you. So you have never met before. If you would have met before, then you would have formed a negotiation that I will also behave in a bad way, you will also behave in a bad way. So see, in any case, this is the most likely outcome, because you don't know whether he will behave well or bad. So if he behaves in a bad way and you also behave in a bad way, then 0-0. You are also 0, he is also 0. But if he behaves in a bad way, but you behave in a good way, he gets 1, you get -1. You are at a clear disadvantage. And if you behave in a bad way and he behaves in a good way, then you get +1. So whatever be the case, in all of the cases, you will be at the maximum advantage if you choose to behave in a bad way. So you will behave badly, and anyway it's already told you that you will meet this person only once, so you'll behave badly. So that means in the short term, your environment, here by environment I mean the rules of the game, it is shaping your behavior. You are playing to get the maximum points, and that is why you're behaving in a bad way. But if I modify the conditions and say that you might meet the person many times in the future, this is not your only meeting, you will meet him maybe twice or thrice more in the future, and at that point of time you might need your help. But if you behave badly with him previously in your first meet, he will not help you, otherwise he will help you. Then you will think twice before doing a bad behavior. Maybe if you then you will compromise your short-term gain. Right now, let me lose 1 point, but in the future I might need him, so why should I risk behaving in a bad way? So the long term, your behavior can shape the environment. You're behaving with him in a good way, right? And that is affecting this entire environment, that is affecting his future behavior to you, and that is affecting the entire game. This is a simple example, just 2 players in the game, but actually this kind of interactions if you study in animals and all, in animals you can see this. So anyway, in my case, if you are in this in the point which I was trying to make is that, so in the short term, see, I mean, I have 80 years to live, 85 years maybe. I'm already 20 years old, so I have 60 to 65 years left in my life, provided I don't die a premature death due to some accident or whatever, catastrophe, whatever, I don't know. So in that case, assuming things go well, I have maybe on average 60 years more to live. In those 60 years, again, maybe I'll be sick near the last years of my life. I'll be sick, I'll be on my deathbed, not in any position to do any meaningful work, any research and all. then maybe let me just take out 5 more years out of that due to illness and all and these other obligations and all. A lot of can happen, right? So then I have 55 years, 50 to 55 years maybe. It's very so. If you think about the changing the understanding humanity, the nature of humanity is a very short time, very short period of time. It's not possible to change the world in this period of time. So the only option is that just physics. People are putting some pressure on you, so you will get deformed. The body will get deformed because this body does not have enough power to deform the world around it. So but this force must, whenever there is some energy, there's a force, there must be some energy is conserved. When a car crashes, the kinetic energy is converted to sound energy, noise, and heat energy and everything. It's not, the energy cannot vanish. So if society treats me in this way, treats any person in this way, it's only expected that that person will, at least some of them will strike back. And I hope to be one of them. Yeah, some people break down. You see, there was a famous saying in Harry Potter: indifference and neglect often cause much more damage than outright dislike. This was a saying. Professor Dumbledore said this in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And the thing is that people, this is a very important point. What I hate more than anything else is that people who don't have the guts to insult me or challenge me in front of me, but who all this, who behind my, who in front of me they act like they have my best interests in their hearts, but behind me they are the ones who are plotting and scheming and doing every kind of disgusting things to try to bring me down. This is what I hate. And in front of me they will not show outright dislike. They will just kind of neglect me and be indifferent to me or be overly polite, which is again a red flag, clear red flag. So the thing is that due to these kind of people, you see, my sample space is very small. I'm like kind of doing a social experiment kind of. You see, sometimes I in with my relatives, with my friends means with my classmates maybe. I don't want to use the term friends anyway. I have no friends, not that I need any. So I kind of at times I kind of behave in a little unpredictable way, and I register what their responses, what their reactions are, because this is all part of a kind of an unofficial social experiment I'm running. Don't ask me why I'm sharing this publicly on YouTube, because right now I've already formed my conclusions. I don't want to run this experiment any further. And even if I do want to run it, I will run it in a way that you will not be able to guess. Even if you watch this video, of course, very few people will watch this video anyway. But even then, I'm sharing this with you. It's not a slip of tongue. I can just cancel the recording and re-record the video from the beginning once more. But I am sharing this with you voluntarily. So because this is important, even every one of us should do this, right? No, it's people might think I'm paranoid and all. But I don't like to associate with people. But it's always it's a good idea to be on your guard, because right now, see, 90% people are harmful and toxic. 10% maybe are good, but of course, most people around you are bad. So you have to be careful of the bad guys. And while doing that, if you treat some good people in an unjust, unfair way, or if you have to end some good relations, meaningful relations, so be it, because you're working for the greater good, right? Just to treat one or two good people in a fair way. You cannot let all the bad people. You cannot just not defend yourself from all the bad people. And there is no guarantee that even the good people will not turn bad tomorrow, but there is a guarantee that the bad people will never turn good. It never happens in real life. So it's always better. It gives you see, life is like game theories. Life is like actually like a game. It's a strategic game. It's not a it's a kind of war. It's not a war that is fought in the battlefield. Maybe it's not a war that we fight with guns and bombs and all, but it's a war. All of us are playing strategic games all our lives, whether we consciously realize that or not. Life is a war. In this war, maybe there will be some fist fights. There will be, and mostly there will be mental fights. But it's a war kind of, and it's a huge strategic advantage to you if you are always on your own guard, and if you do not trust people, even if that means you are treating some good people unfairly, because most people are not good. And of course, I should not make these statements about humanity just based on my experiences, because the sample space of my social experiment is pretty small. How many people have I interacted with, and what is the total population of the world? The world contains hundreds of billions of people, the total population of the world. I have interacted with very few people. In person, very few. Even if I consider my online virtual connections and all, I've interacted with very few people. And of course, you cannot get to know a person just by interacting with them online. But yeah, maybe I'm unlucky, I don't know why, but from my experience, from what I have had a very negative, I have been compelled to form a very negative view, negative perception of humanity, at least the humanity that I have been exposed to. Right, and yeah, this is first a part of social experiment. I kind of from registering these responses, and I have got these realizations. And the thing is that you should always think the most important thing in this game called life, you should never make any exceptions. Okay, so my rule is that I should not trust anyone, because by themselves most people are not trustworthy. That is a rule. But okay, let me make an exception for that particular person, because he seems so good. He always has time for me. He or she always has time for me. He or she has helped me in my times of need. Maybe that is true. Maybe he or she is actually a good person. Maybe you don't know his or her total consequences. Maybe you think he or she treated you unfairly, but maybe he or she was going through something more difficult than you. So it's all possible. Maybe he or she is really good. Maybe you are the one who is treating him or her unfairly. That is possible. But even knowing that, you should not make any exception. It's a rule. I will trust no one. That means it's a rule. No exceptions at all. No exceptions. Not even for your closest relative, even for your closest family member, and for your worst enemy. The same rule should apply. It's a rule of humanity. Because if you make exceptions, maybe you are right. Maybe that person is actually good. Maybe you should make the exception for this particular case. But if you make a single exception, see, an exception disproves the rule. Life is not chemistry. Single in mathematics, what will happen? If I can show you a single counterexample to a theorem, that theorem is disproved forever. To prove the theorem, you need to do a rigorous proof. You cannot just say that okay, this theorem works for the first 10 prime numbers, that means it works for all the prime numbers. No. Even if you can show that it works for the first 1 crore prime numbers, that's not enough. You have to mathematically prove rigorously, not some specific proof, but general proof. But if I can show you a single prime number for which this your theorem does not hold, then there is no point in trying out that proof. That proof does not exist. Your theorem is disproved. An exception disproves the rule. Same thing here. You should make no exceptions, because that is how your enemies prey on your emotions. If you make a single exception, that exception is all your enemy needs to strike back, and it will only weaken you. It will only weaken you. It's very difficult to accept this initially. I know that initially, unconsciously, whether you admit it or not, you want at least some people, at least one good friend, someone with whom you can share stuff. But it's easier to get over this feeling. But now if you fall in this trap, make exceptions, and then if the betrayal comes at a later stage, then you'll be totally destroyed. You'll not be able to come out of that trap, or whatever you call it, of that rabbit hole. But right now it's difficult, but it's easier than that, at least. So the sooner you can accept it, that there is no one, you're alone, the better. So, I mean, yeah, see, there was that saying, famous saying, I read it somewhere. I don't know the exact movie name, not watched it. That what people love more than a hero is to watch a hero fail. So that's what they want. They want you to fail. You should not get lured. You should not fall into that trap. And one more realization is that recently, last few days, weeks, whatever, last 1.5 months, to be more precise. See, I have this kind of people call it morbid curiosity, no, whatever you call it. But I never considered dying myself, of course, but I have this fascination with death. Now, there's a reason why. It's not because I'm insane, I'm negative or all, because death reminds me of justice. Life reminds me of transience and pointlessness. And death reminds me of eternity and justice. Life is pointless. We're all going to die. And not just because of that. Of course, I have no trouble accepting the fact that we're all going to die. But life is pointless because life does not treat you fairly. Life discriminates on the basis of your status in society, the job you do, the money you make, your gender, your background, whatever, everything. Life discriminates. Of course, by life I'm talking about, you know what I mean, right? Everywhere around you there is discrimination in the living world, but death does not discriminate. A person with a lot of money, he or she can cheat in life, but he or she cannot cheat death. Everyone will die. Yeah, of course. If you have a lot of money, if you have some serious illness, you can have some treatment. You can maybe keep death at bay for longer. Maybe a poor people, if he gets that disease, he would have died maybe in his 30s. But a rich person, maybe due to proper medical treatment and medical attention, he lived up to 80. It's possible. 50 years is a huge time. But still, even he has to die. No matter how rich that person is, every one of us have to die. And once you're dead, you're dead. You're gone. You're dead forever, for eternity. That's why death, I relate death with eternity and most importantly, justice. And life, I relate with transience and pointlessness and injustice and pain and tragedy and betrayals and so forth. So that's why I'm inspired by death. Inspired in the sense I don't want to die, but I find death very, just I'm trying to personify death. Of course, there is no person called death. There is no person who just takes us. Not I'm not talking about a reaper or any such folk tale or cinematic concept, but yeah, I like the concept basically. That is why I had this thing with skeletons. I have never shared this story anywhere publicly before, but yeah, it's nothing not to share. So I was when I was in my class, third standard or fourth standard. It's very young, 11 years, 10 years, third or fourth standard in school, primary school. I was very fascinated with these skeletons. Maybe I don't know. Maybe heard about them in some ghost story or something. This skeleton, and I was like, I told my grandfather that time. My grandfather was alive, and I told him that I want to see a skeleton. He was like, he told that my grandfather was a teacher in the school. I used to study in a different school, but he also used to teach in a school which is near my home in the same town. So, and yeah, in every high school there is a biology lab where there is a skeleton, so the students can see the skeletons and all these different bones and all. In every school there is a skeleton in a biology lab. At least a, if even if not an original skeleton, at least a skeleton structure. So my grandfather, in my grandfather's former school, of course he was retired then, but he used to teach in that school, and people respect him a lot in that school even today. So he told that in our school there isn't actually an original skeleton. The medical college donated the skeleton. It's a skeleton of an actual original person who died in an accident. Uh, so he told me that I can take you to my school, and actually it's not allowed. In my school also there was a skeleton in the biology lab, but uh, we fifth standard, we can enter the biology lab from our fifth or sixth standard. I don't remember exactly. I mean, in my school it was not allowed. A third standard student or a class 3 or class 2 student was not allowed to enter the biology lab. But I was like, no, I want to see a skeleton right now. I cannot wait for 3 more years. Just maybe a childhood kind of fantasy or kind of whatever you call it, kind of madness, whatever. But yeah, I was very excited to see the skeleton. And my grandfather actually made arrangements, and he took me to his former school one day. And I went to the biology lab. Of course, it was not allowed, but in my school. But since I went there as a visitor with one of their ex teachers, a respected teacher, so and not as a student, so they just allowed it. Maybe unofficially, but I was allowed. Okay, and I went to the biology lab. I watched the skeleton. So before I even entered the biology lab, I was this full of this excitement. I was just a kid then, okay? And I was that I'm gonna see a real skeleton. I've been hearing so much about them in ghost stories and horror stories and all. But I will never forget the moment when I first set eyes, when I first saw the skeleton. The memory is vivid. It was when it was seen. It was so many years back. I was in my third standard then, right? So almost 11, 12 years back. But I even forget. I don't have a good memory of what happened 1 month ago. But that particular moment, it's vivid in my mind, because it aroused very strong emotions within me. So when I first saw the skeleton, all this excitement and this childhood, this it vanished in a second. I was like, I don't know. It was a strange feeling. Of course, at that age, I was not aware of all these things, life, death, and everything, all this philosophical stuff. But I felt strange that okay, after some, at least I knew at least this, that after some years I will also turn into one of these skeletons. Everyone of us will, and I felt like I I did not feel afraid or very sad or depressed, but I felt kind of weird, kind of strange. I felt like I was in control of some greater power. I'm not making any spiritual statements. I am a scientist, a science aspirant, not officially a scientist yet, but I'm a scientist at heart. But yeah, I felt strange, and from that point of time, I have this thing something changed within me. I realized that okay, I have a few years to live. Before that, I used to think that I have 80 years age. If I live up to 8 years, I have a lot of time. I'm 11 years old, 12 years old right now. A lot of time. I mean, 80 years if I have to live. I was even not even 11 years. I was actually 10, 8, 9 years old maybe then. But so I have maybe 70 more years to live. So it's a lot of time. But from that point of time, something changed within me. I thought that 70 years is nothing. If I really want to do something meaningful in life, I should start right now, right today. Because 70 years will just pass by in a jiffy. It's nothing. And after 70 years, I will be what I'm seeing right in front of me. This just bones, nothing. And that's there is this famous quote by Confucius that we all have two lives. The second one begins when we realize we have only one. I failed that quote at that point of time. I did not know about this quote then, but when I read this quote many years after many years, I was reminded of that my first encounter with a skeleton. And after that, I have I don't like skeletons. I mean, I'm not afraid at all. I have been to the biology lab of my school later, of course, but I didn't feel that excitement, and I kind of feel a sense of foreboding, a different kind of feeling. So I usually avoided going in front of a skeleton. I have these things with skeletons and skulls and everything. I don't know why. It's kind of, I would. It's not like I'm afraid. Even if if you show me more disturbing images, maybe image of a needle piercing an eye, all those disturbing images, I'm not that much disturbed. I can take it. Image of dead bodies and all those blood and all. I can take it. But I have this thing with skeleton. Maybe because I encountered it at a young age and that memory is stuck in my head. But the thing is that sometimes it's important to ponder your mortality, to realize that okay, I have a few years to live. And see, this thought can make you depressed. And of course, if you all the time if you go on thinking I have a few years to live, that will not really improve your chances of survival. That will be pointless. But sometimes it's important to realize that you have a finite time and you should not waste this time doing. You shouldn't waste this time thinking what other people think about you, whether other people care, whether no. You just should do your work. Let the world hate you. You just do your work. That is thing. Because if you're thinking about them, you're wasting your time. Your lifespan is finite. This is the most important thing. So sometimes it's important to ponder about the uh, finite nature of our life, the finite nature of existence. So yeah, like I was saying, sometimes I wonder. Of course, the from my experience, I have a very bad perception of humanity. But again, my social experiment, the sample space was very small when you consider the total human population. Uh, Plus, I don't know, but the thing is that what I was thinking is that if I were to start from the beginning, start from the scratch, and if I were to run this simulation of my life or whatever, say million, hundreds of times, thousands of times, would I end up with the exact same realizations? I have asked this question to myself, and I have, of course, nobody can answer this definitely, but I feel like in for the most part, maybe yes, because it's the nature of humankind. Provided the nature of humankind does not change, then yes, maybe I would have reached the same realizations. It's a nature. It's not about for it's not. See, I have no problem with this particular person or that particular person. It's the nature of humankind. It's the system that is to blame, because most humans, they're just happy with a normal ordinary conventional life, and they seek some stability in life, some financial stability or some emotional stability. They just want to just settle down with a simple life. And if and to achieve this, they are ready to do all sorts of they're ready to engage in all sorts of corruptions and fraudulent activities, as long as it is nothing too serious. Like, of course, they will not murder someone innocent due to this, because then murder is a serious offense. But I mean, this is how corruption thrives. This is how corruption thrives. Corruption thrives because the people who do this, they take advantage of this mindset of 99% of the people who are poor, who have no choice. They have to do this for the money. So it's no good blaming them. It's the system that is to blame. But like I was saying, if I rerun this experiment 1,000 times, probably we would have ended up with the same system. It's inevitable when you have so many people, so many humans living together like this, and we have some basic defining characteristics of humans. Psychology, if you study that, all humans, they care about the survival. They care in the sense that that is how we are hardware. That is evolutionary instinct, and we have some other basic features that is more or less common to all humans, to all humans. So if you take that into account, then and maybe then if you run a simulation, if you take say some billions of humans on this planet and run a simulation, then they all and such that they will interact following these rules, then in most of the cases what I feel like is that you will end up with a similar system where there will be corruption. It is inevitable. So it's no good even blaming the system, and it's not at all good blaming some individual person, but even blaming the system, it's no good, because you cannot build a better system. That's the truth. So what good blaming the system? If you blame the system and all, you're wasting your time. The system will not give a damn about this. Nobody will give a damn about this. You're only wasting your time. You have to do something meaningful in life. You have to do that either way, whether you admit it or not. Even to change the system, it's not possible. But yeah, even to do some to have some little impact on the system, you have to take yourself to that level for which you have to work. If you just sit and just upload angry rants on YouTube about the system, I'm not doing that. I'm sharing my realizations. I'm not doing that, by the way. So then that's not going to help you. That's not going to help you. That's not going to change anything. You know. But yeah, actually, but the thing is that it's a good exercise for the brain. Even in science, if you see, it's actually a very good exercise for the brain. In unbiased thinking, like sometimes even you can do this. You can wonder what, suppose from the science point of view, if I say, suppose you wonder, what if I started, what if I had to start physics from scratch? What I mean by that is that you go back, say, thousands of years. There is no Newton, no Galileo. It's the age of alchemists and all those philosophers and all. You have no knowledge. See, just try to imagine this, because if you do this, it's a good exercise for your brain. Okay, forget everything you know, every common sense notion you know about physics, gravity. You have this equation, calculator. Forget everything. There is nothing. Even it's long before Newton and Galileo. So all you have is, you can just watch the world around you, and the world around you means, of course, there were no airplanes or buildings at that time. You just observe. You can observe some things. If I throw the stone, it is always going like this. The stars and all, just observation, but you know nothing, no presumptions. Now if you were to start the scientific method, start physics from scratch, what would you have done? I'm just asking you to imagine, because it's a good exercise for the brain, because we take a lot for granted. Newton gave this theory and all, but try to imagine if you were to wind the clocks back thousands of years and start even before Newton, and just let humans evolve, then would we have? Of course, we would have reached the same conclusion. The conclusions of physics, they are universal, but would we have reached it in the exact same path? Like first Newton developed this, then relativity, quantum, or would we have followed some other path? Would we be, in that case, would we be closer to the theory of everything, or would we have some deeper realizations, or would we be at a worse place? Try to imagine. It's a good exercise for the brain. And even this was from the science part, but even in this part, in the humanity, the social experiment part, try to imagine if I were to go back 100 years and again simulate it. Would the humans around me be the same, or would they be a bit better? Would there be better people, or would there be worse people? Try to imagine. Of course, the second experiment, it's it's difficult to proceed because you have no scientific data. It's just more of an assumption, but you still try to imagine. You at least have some knowledge of the human psyche, because you yourself are a human. I'm not saying you need to be a PhD in psychology or psychiatry for this, but you should know the basics, right? I mean, again, even this is hardwired in us, because it's a hardwired instinct in us to survive. Humans, no humans, even by watching an unknown stranger, even by watching his or her face, you can actually, even if unconsciously, you can actually tell if he or she is actually happy or sad. To a little extent, of course, if he or she is a very good trained actor, trained face actor, then he or she can hide his emotions. But all humans have this ability. Then you can, there is something called, I don't remember the exact neuroscientific term, but by looking at the face of the human, you can actually tell whether what he or she is trying to tell you. These instincts are hardwired in our genetics. Anybody can do this. For this, you don't need to be a psychologist, because this gives us good chances of survival. If you don't know what your enemy is thinking, of course, it's not possible. Nobody can read minds, but we have some basic instincts that works in some cases. All of us, not just psychologists. So anyway, in my case, what happened was that. But anyways, it was because that I recently had to go out of station for a research fellowship, and I have been staying away from my parents for over 2 years now because of my college education. But at least in Kolkata, I stay in my relative's house, and it's nearer to my parents. We at least visit at least once a month or once every 2 months, maybe. And there are some holidays in college. But this was the first time I had to go to a entirely different state, to the other side of India, and stay all by myself without my parents. And so I started feeling up when I reached there. For the first 2 or 3 days was fine, but then I started feeling a bit homesick, which was in any case natural. But I was able to deal with it. But the problem wasn't homesickness, because I knew that this fellowship would be over in 2 months. After that, I would be back to Kolkata, and after that, during the holidays, college holidays, I'll be back to my parents. But what I felt was that my undergraduate degree is coming to a close. After 1 year, I'll be completing my undergraduate degree. And then postgraduate PhD, I don't know. I might have to permanently move to a different state, maybe even different country for my higher education for PhD or postdoc. So that is when, I felt this kind of depressed and all that. Then that will I ever be able to settle with my parents permanently? My father and my mother, they are my only weakness, and so will I ever be able to settle with them permanently? I don't know where I'm going, where I'm headed to. Will I ever? Of course, I will meet them on a regular basis, but will I be able to settle with them permanently? There is no guarantee, right? You don't know where life will take you. Plus, this academic path, it takes a long time before you settle. It's not like you take a 4 years engineering degree and you get a job. It's not like that. Even now, the engineering scenario is also not that promising. But anyway, that's not the point of this video anyway. But yeah, so that is when I felt depressed, and I kind of yeah. But to cap it all, to add the toppings to the pizza, already large pizza, uh, I already have a demonstrated history of putting my faith in the wrong kind of people. But I realized the people whom I never trusted anyone. I never trust anyone. But still, I thought that maybe he or she was good. I helped those people also. But at that point of time, crucial point of time, when I was down, when I needed them, maybe they had no time for me. And that is when I realized actually that, I mean, it was actually a boon in disguise, because they actually made me stronger for the future. Of course, initially for those few days it was very difficult, but I made it out, right? I made it out alive, unscathed, and stronger than ever before. So I don't know. Most probably, why they did this. They wanted to break me. I don't know why. Whether they're jealous or whatever. I don't know. I don't care also. But yeah. So a lot of people around me have tried to burn my world, burn everything around me, burn everything down. But why my hands are not yet blackened? Because you see, you have to realize this realization is very important. You have to realize that nobody is coming to save you. Nobody actually cares for you. You have to do this alone. And once you realize this, once you accept this, that you have to do this alone, a fire will light up inside you. A fire will ignite inside you, and the intensity of that flames of that fire, and those flames inside you will be much more brighter, much more hotter than the flames around you. And once you can successfully ignite that fire, then you will not even feel the flames around you. You will feel, in fact, you will feel cool, because inside you is a much more hotter flame. So that is how I managed to. I mean, it was difficult, of course. This realization was difficult. It's not like, especially, but the more than realization, this acceptance. You have to really accept it. Not like you just accept it temporarily. Just you watch some motivational movies or videos, and you just talk about it in YouTube. Not like that. You have to actually accept it forever and make no exceptions. Like already told this point, for the rest of your life. Like, I mean, see, those days, the last few weeks, those days were not fun, because you see, I whenever I get this down, what I want to do, what I always do is I try to isolate myself from the world, and focus on exploring myself and exploring the things I love, namely physics and music. But this time the things were different, because I was in a different state. So if I was in Kolkata in my relative's house, I just switch off my phone so that none of my so-called friends can reach me. But if I want to talk to my parents, I can call them from my relative's phone. Or if I'm with my parents, then there is no problem at all with switching off my phone. But this time I was away from my parents in a different state. So if I switched off my phone, even my parents will not be able to reach me. So that was a constraint. But in the end, I thought that no, I have to switch off this phone. It's enough of this. I need to isolate myself temporarily, to yeah. So I switched off my phone, and I had this kind of agreement with my parents that, see, every day I woke up and I sent an email to my father that I am alive. Just this, I am alive. And every night before going to sleep, again, I am alive, good night. This is how this went on for almost 2 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks actually. Like nearly 20 days, 18, 19 days. So if you have not experienced it, you will never know how it feels like to go without food for 2 days. I did not take any single food for 2 complete days, nothing. And sleep, it was, of course, I didn't have any sound sleep. I was like, I could not sleep, and sometimes I just fell into trance, because after all, it's a physical body. It cannot stay awake for long. And those days were very dark days. And even during those days, I continued my research work, my fellowship work. I have got this fellowship, so I should not waste this opportunity. I never compromised with this, and nobody, I did not let anyone around me know what I was going through. But this is how the days were progressing. My only communication with my guide, my supervisor, and my parents was via email. My phone was out of reach, and I was like, I was kind of torn between life and death. Every at the end of every day, when I went to night, when I went to sleep, when I when I just laid off, I could not sleep. When I just switch off the light and just lay down on the bed of my hostel, of my accommodation. So I just felt like some part of me felt like the boy who lived. Like I managed to stay alive another day in this state of mind. Felt like some achievement, some sort of achievement. But the other part said that it would have been much easier if you would have just died. I mean, so I was torn between life and death, kind of in a dilemma, kind of, and those were very very dark days. But so you see, those were like what I realized was that yeah, I got a lot of emails and all SM messages and all from my so-called friends and all, who, I mean, they filled with this fake concern that I could not reach you by phone. Your phone is switched off. Are you okay? I'm worried. Even though, like, as if I'm the only one that matters to them. I mean, they could go into Hollywood and all. They have a good career there. They're pretty good actors. Anyway, so uh, yeah. So I read this somewhere a long time ago. How to define friends? Friends are enemies who have not yet stricken, but that was their intention from the very beginning. They are just waiting to strike. They will strike you in the future, but they have always been your enemy. In the you just So ultimately, friends are just enemies who have not yet stricken. Very good definition. And one more thing is that there is a famous saying: friends are like oxygen. You cannot live without them. I want to modify this quote. Friends are like oxygen. The higher you rise, the lower the oxygen concentration. You need oxygen to live. You cannot stay alive without oxygen, but you need to change your oxygen supply. You need to be your own oxygen. You need to be your own friend. You should not allow some other people to be your oxygen to other people. I mean, you should not be friends with other people. That's what I'm trying to say, because see, this is again physics. The higher you rise, the more altitude, the lower the oxygen concentration. Here, what I mean is that the more you progress in life, the friends will try to slow you down, and if they fail, they will no longer be your friends. So, if you want to do something big in life, if you want to rise high, then you have to accept that you cannot have friends or very less friends. And if you want to stay at a very low altitude, you will have a lot of so-called friends. You'll have a very dense, huge oxygen concentration. Choice is up to you. Uh, but uh, but one thing I realized, which I have shared previously also, you should never in life, you should never put your faith in anything that is conscious. Least of all, I mean, especially humans. Animals will not betray that easily. You should not even a good human, a so-called good human, not even a celebrity or whatever, because uh, you should put your faith on something which can never betray you, something which is. There is a friend of mine uh, who who used to uh, you know uh, think, I don't know if this is some psychological illness or if actually, but that person, I mean, like how- there are some people, I don't know if you have met any such people. They think that the characters they read in fiction or they watch in movies, they think that they're real. I mean, they don't think they're real, of course, but they kind of have this vivid imagination that that character is my friend. I talk with him or her, and kind of, so they kind of form a fictional world, and they just kind of confine themselves within the world. Do you know why they do that? Because those fictional characters, they can never hurt them. There is no chance of betrayal from them, but the real people around you will do that. But this is a wrong strategy. Best is you should accept the betrayal, and you should fight back. You should not confine yourself within a fictional world. You should face the real world, but alone. That is the best strategy. But yeah, anyway, temporarily this might be a good strategy for some people and some people do that actually. But the thing is that, in my case, for instance, I put my faith in physics because I know physics will never betray me. And see what, I cannot ask anything more from physics. Initially, physics gave me direction and purpose in life. When I was a high school student, I was clueless what to do in life. Physics, after I learned about physics, I thought that no, this is my cup of tea. I want to do physics. And after that, my journey into the world of physics began, and I've not regretted this decision. The more I study physics, the more I feel like no, this was indeed the right choice for me. So initially physics gave me purpose in life, and now physics has given me a new life. What more can I ask from physics? Because why do I say physics has given me a new life? Because when I felt like there was nothing more to live for, something inside me told that no, there is still one more thing to live for, and that is physics. And that is physics and the Journal of Young Physicists. These two, plus my parents, these factors, these are the factors are which are rooting me to the earth, which are not letting me die in simple terms. I don't know whether it's a good thing or bad thing, but yeah. So they're giving me a new life. They gave me a new life because even I'm surprised I made out of those dark days. I made it out alive. I'm really surprised. But yeah, it's a good thing because now I'm stronger than ever before. Feel it. Stronger means mentally stronger, not physically. My health has been adversely affected by all this as well. You see, I'm even thinner than before, and anyway, but anyway, that I can deal with it. But yeah, mentally my mindset has changed, and my mindset has permanently changed, and now I'm better, well prepared for the future, because this is not any temporary change. This realization, it's a deep realization. And see, once you know the truth, once you know this truth, once you realize that you have been living in a delusion for your entire life, and once you know the truth, then you can never again look back. You can never again look at life, look at the people around you in the same way like you used to do. Yeah, truth comes at a terrible price, but truth will also prepare you for your work. Truth will, it's important. Truth is very important. I mean, at least I feel like nothing can be a substitute for truth. Knowing the truth, maybe you will not be happy, maybe you'll be sad, maybe ignorance is bliss, but I think it's better to know the truth and learn to get used to it as soon as possible, rather than knowing the truth near the end of your life and when it will come as a shock, because it's very difficult to deal with the regret that time. Better to work hard now and make sacrifices now than regret later, right? So yeah, the journal of physics and physics, because whenever I thought that there is nothing to live for, I told that no, there are a lot of questions in physics to answer. That is enough reason to live for. There are your parents. Then there is a journal of physicists. I founded this journal. It's almost like my child. I went against every odds and I founded this journal when I was in my class 11th, 4 years back. And I gave my everything. And today, of course, it's not a hugely famous journal. But today we have thousands of monthly site visitors. We have so many submissions, so many articles. And if you look at our website, the standard of articles have gone drastically. It has gone up. Now we are publishing any serious articles, and we have the JYP, the Journal of Physics, the JYP and its team. We have always been committed to popularizing physics and fostering the growth of young physicists, and that is just not just our tagline. We have always been dedicated to this idea, and we have been working with this in mind, and we have actually made some real conversions. We have seen some outputs. We have reached so many young people, we've connected so many young physicists, so many young people who have not been interested in physics. They have become interested after reading our articles. They have even submitted their own physics articles to us. We are trying to create a platform for young physicists, specifically for young physicists. For young scientists, there are a lot of platforms already, but for young physicists, there are not many. That's why I founded this journal in the first place. And plus, we also want to popularize physics to a general audience of all ages. So I feel like I founded this organization, and right now I am a huge part of this. We have a team. Even if I die, JYP will not be closed, because JYP is a non-profit, a not-for-profit. It's not my personal website or something that if I die, JYP is dead. No, of course, I have made arrangements. Even if I were to die even accidentally, that can happen any day, right? JYP will continue its work. JYP will not end. There are people who will take control, who have access to our systems and everything. But yeah, I need to make sure that JYP will be in safe hands even after I'm gone, because JYP is beyond me. I will die. Even if I don't die today, I will die after 60 years. But JYP should not die. JYP should be forever. Right? So that is my goal, to inspire the youth to pursue physics, especially the underprivileged youth. So I felt like there is still a lot of work to do to make sure JYP will be in the right hands once I die. So that is when I told myself, okay, so maybe it's not the right time to die. You need to leave. You have a lot of work to do. So physics, JYP, these things, they're kind of binding me to the earth. They're not letting me go. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but yeah, it's true. It's undeniably true that physics initially gave me purpose in life, and now physics has given me a new life. So what else can I ask for? See, it's not me versus the world. It's me and physics versus the world. And this physics is so powerful that with when I have physics by my side, I feel like I can take on the entire world on my own. Of course, I'm not. I'm just in a way of speaking. You know what I mean? Of course, I'm not declaring war on the world or anything. But yeah, that is what I mean. So yeah, I would like to, I would like to assure those of you that care in any case, that I will do everything in my powers to make sure that even when I'm gone, JYP is in safe hands, and JYP will always, and as long as I'm alive, I will always do my part for physics, because physics has done everything for me. And I request you, I ask you to come forward for the same. Especially, I'm talking about the physics aspirants. Of course, not every one of you will be pursuing physics, I'm not asking that of you as well. But you should do your part for the underprivileged children as well. I mean, just your part, not just from a physics point of view, but you should at least do that, right? Because you see, this is see, if you ask me how I managed to come out of that mess of the last few these dark days, my answer would be, see, initially I isolated myself and focused on exploring physics and exploring myself. Of course, it was a painful and slow process, but see, it was a long process, and there were lots of ups and downs. Sometimes I feel like, no, there is nothing to live for. Sometimes I feel these short bursts of motivation, but in the end, when I tried to hear my inner voice, I did not find my inner voice saying just end it. Instead, what I heard was, it's not over. And that's when I felt that, okay, I need to come back. I need to switch on my phone once more, and I need to come back. I know the world I'm going back to will be full of pain and tragedy, but still I need to come back. I have a lot of unfinished work to do, so I need to come back. That is when I decided to come back. And it's a choice. I'm here by choice, not by chance. I I chose a difficult path. Maybe it would have been the easier path if I would have ended it all. But so anyway, I just wanted to share this, whatever you call this, with you. Mm. And so yeah, so in the end, once I had this realization, in the end I smiled again. Not because I was happy, but because I knew that I would never again be depressed for these silly reasons. Like I'm equipped lifelong for this. That is why I felt more strong. That's why I smiled, not because I was happy. I will never be happy. Once you know the truth, you can never be happy. And if you see the title of the video, it's ADvercity. I mean, I meant adversity, but A and D is also capitalized, and city in place of S, which you expect is the spelling of adversity, it is CITY. Well, actually, it's kind of what I want to. I mean, the reason behind this is that for the last few weeks, for during this period of my life, this whatever you call it, physically I was in some city in India, of course, but mentally I was in this city. I was an inhabitant of this city called Adversity. And why did I choose the name Adversity? There are a lot of words that end with city, maybe, but why did I choose Adversity? Because A, D are my initials, Arpan Dey, and Adversity is the only city in my universe which is ADverse. My universe, ADverse, adverse, right? Adverse, ADverse, and if you also happen to be an inhabitant of this adversity, of this city called Adversity, that means if life is adverse for you also, all I would like to say is that don't let adversity break you. Break records instead. Don't let adversity get the best of you, because your life is adverse because you can take it. That is why. That is why your life is adverse, because you can take it. So fight a little more. You will not regret it. Don't give up. That is what your enemies want. The people who have made your life adverse, they want to see you fail. So why should you make it easier for them? That's it. I don't know what you're going through. Most of the people who are watching this video, most of them are responsible. I mean, at least some of them are responsible for my adversity. So of course, this last statement is not for you. I have nothing more to say to you. But if any of you are watching who are also going through this phase which I am going through, all I want to say is that don't give up. Keep fighting. Thank you.